everyone. I welcome you all in our last day, that is day 3 of our bootcamp of DP 900. We have with us our speaker for the day, that is Miss Jayashree Gupta. I not to mention that Jayashree is an upcoming DC intern at Google, as well as she is the chapter lead at Girl Script Jaipur chapter, as well as she is also a beta MLSA. Over to you, Jayashree.
Thank you, Tasha, for having me and giving a wonderful introduction. So, I think we should start with the session. Just let me know whether my screen is visible or not.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the final day of this boot camp that is on Microsoft Azure Fundamentals, especially focused on the DP 900 exam. So, today is day 3. So, I hope you have revised the concepts that we have discussed yesterday and in our previous sessions. So, let me give you a quick recap for that. So, we have discussed the relational databases, non-relational databases, provisioning, and other processing techniques in our previous sessions, along with the SQL queries. Today, we are going to see the more deeper concepts on data. So, let's start with the session. So, I think I should skip my introduction because Itasha has already introduced me well. Now, starting with the contents that we are going to see in this session. So, firstly, we are going to see the components of the modern data warehouse. Then, we are going to see the large scale data analytics. Then, we are going to explore the fundamentals of data visualization, followed by the fundamentals of the stream processing. So, let's start. So, starting with our first topic, that is on the components of a modern data warehouse. So, basically, what a modern data warehousing is. So, if talking about the modern data warehouse, so it is basically a collection, or we could say a mixture of the relational as well as the non-relational data. So that includes your files, your audios, your videos, your tabular data, and other files. Or it may also include any sensor data that you might occur from your like modeling or from your IoT devices. So basically, Azure provides a collection of services that you can use to build a data warehouse solution, and it includes your Azure Data Factory, Azure Data Lake Storage, Azure Databricks, Azure Synapse Analytics, and Azure Analytics services. So basically, we are going to see throughout all these services that are available and provided by the Azure. So next we have Azure Data Factory. So basically what a Azure Data Factory is, it is a data integration service that is provided by the Azure, and the basic purpose of this Azure Data Factory is to retrieve the data from one or more data sources and then convert into a format that you need to process further. Like it will basically fetch your data from raw data from your from the sources, and then further it will convert it into a readable form, like machine readable form, to process further, so that you can make it for better for analysis or for making the trends, etc. So let's go ahead. We have Azure Data Lake Storage. So it is another service that is provided by the Azure. So basically, Azure Data Lake Storage combines the hierarchical data structures, we could say a directory structure, which means that it contains a file system. As we have a traditional file system earlier, like we usually use with the Linux or other operating system, so that are the file based operating system. So basically, it is just a file system, but it includes the several security options along with that traditional system. So like it will provide a scalability and security to your file system. So Azure Data Lake Storage is essentially an extensible for the Azure Blob Storage. We could say Azure Blob Storage is one of the features that we could use for the non-structural data. So it could be an extension for that. So it has the following characteristics as I have mentioned here, like Azure Lake Storage organizes your files into the directories and then subdirectories. Then Data Lake Storage supports the portable operating system interface, that is your POSIX file and directory permissions. Then we have Azure Lake Storage is compatible with the Hadoop distributed file system, so it will support that as well. So like this. So as here it is also described in this diagram that these are the services that, like all the file system we have, like generally we treat everything as a file, whether it could be a device, video, application, web, or anything. So it will treat it as a file, and then further it will process it from like data factory. Like data factory will fetch your data, and then further it will go to your Azure Data Lake Storage. Okay, now going ahead, we have Azure Databricks. So basically, Azure Databricks is an Apache Spark environment, which means that it will provide you an environment to run your big data processing or like streaming processes. For example, if you want to run your machine learning algorithms, you want to train your model, test your model, so it will provide an environment to work over. So basically it will provide a Apache server that is highly efficient for data processing engine, and like it will provide libraries, Spark libraries, so that you can work on your algorithms and you can process your SQL queries very easily. Next we have Azure Synapse Analytics. So basically, what is your Azure Synapse Analytics? Basically, Azure Synapse Analytics is the analytics engine. It is a quickly, it is for quickly processing your data. So basically, it is designed to process the large amount of data very quickly. Like for example, you ingest your data. That means your data is being transported. Then from to process that data, so if it could be in like stream processing or batch processing, that we will discuss further. So to process that large amount of data, it will provide an engine for that. So basically Azure Synapse Analytics this does this for us. Okay, so here, like in this example, as you can see that external data is ingested or like by using the POLYBASE or other technique, and then further it would pass through the Azure Synapse Analytics, which gives its control to the node. Then it is further divided into the sub nodes, that is your compute nodes, and then further store it as a Azure storage. Then next we have Azure Analysis Services. So basically, Azure Analysis Services enables you to build a tabular models to support the online analytical processing queries. So basically, if you could say that you have your data with us, then you want to convert into a tabular models to be processed further and to make a visualized version of that. So for that, Azure Analysis Services are there so that you can work over that and you can make a tabular model with that. So you can combine the data from the multiple resources, like they can be from Azure, like you have Azure SQL databases, you have Azure Synapse Analytics, you have Azure Data Lake Store, then you have Azure Cosmos DB and many other services. So like you can use this and to make the models, or to build the tabular models basically, which could be further used in the business to create the visualized version for that, and to use that tabular format data for further useful information. So next we have Azure HD Insight. So basically Azure HD Insight is a big data processing service that provides a platform for technologies such as Spark in an Azure environment. So like as here you can see that your data sources, then it will pass through the Apache Hadoop on HD Insight, and like these are all your raw data that you have. So these are further passed to the Hadoop on in HD Insight, and then further it will provided with the Spark environment on which your Azure storage and Azure data lake will work. Then you have further process this data in the analysis model, and further you can pass it through the Power BI to make the visualized version of your data. So the model which you made with the help of the Azure HD Insight could be similar to be used with the Synapse Analytics, which accepts the order, like which will accept the orders, which will further process through the nodes that we have discussed earlier. So Next, we have our next topic, that is common practices for data loading. So like we have discussed that your data is ingested. So basically what happen is your raw data is there, you have to ingest that data. That means you have to transport that data to go further with the query part. So like if you want to query that, like for processing that, so that you can work over the queries, or you can use that data by processing and make a information from that and use that inside the charts, or like for your visualization, or for your making any useful information. So basically for loading, or we could say for your ingesting or transporting that data, raw data, so we use several practices. We have several practices, and Azure offers us such options to do that. So first we have ingest data using Azure Data Factory. So like how could we ingest that data, like transport that data using the Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory is your data ingestion and transformation service. It is a kind of a service which will provide you, which will help you in ingestion and transporting. So it will basically allows you to load raw data from many different sources. Like you can load your data from different sources. Like you can load your data from your own premises hardware devices, or like any devices, and the cloud itself, like from cloud as well as from your on premises devices. And like data factory can clean, transform and restructure the data before loading it and it into a repository such as the data warehouse. So it will it will transport your data, it will put your data towards the warehouse, data warehouse. So basically this is the technique, like as here described, like your on premises network, like external data is being loaded, like from data, like on premises data, external data from cloud, both are loaded together by the ingestion technique of Azure file storage, and then further passed to the Azure Synapse and other like warehouses. Next we have uh, the understanding the linked services. So basically whenever we are loading the data, we are loading the data by using the data factory. So we have different services, or like different terms we could say. So firstly we have linked services. So basically a linked service provides the information that is needed for data factory to connect to a source or destination. Like for example, your data factory is taking the data from the sources and transporting it into the destination. So for that connecting purpose, we need some linked services that will tell the data factory to connect to the source and destination, that will provide the necessary information to that data factory. Then we have data sets. So basically data set in Azure Data Factory represents the data that you want to ingest and store. So basically data sets is your all the information that you have, like your raw data we could say. So that information which the Azure Data Factory has to transport, that could be your further use for your machine learning algorithms. Like for example, if we are taking if we are talking in the terms of machine learning, so like in machine learning we have training data as well as testing data. So a data set will include all the data that could have, that could be further divided into the training data and testing data. Then we have pipelines. So a pipeline is basically a logical grouping of activities that together perform a task, like to perform a task together, so that it could be in a pipeline, so that no device could be idle in between, so that the process could not be break in between. So we should have a pipeline, so that the logical grouping of the activities would take place to perform a task which could be done in a together mode. Then we have other technique, that is using ingesting using the POLYBASE. So like this is another way by which we can ingest our data, we could say, or transport our data using the POLYBASE. So POLYBASE is a feature of the SQL Server and Azure Synapse Analytics that enables you to run the transact SQL queries that read the data from the external data sources. So basically it will make it available in the form of the tables and in the SQL database. So basically it will be more compatible on the data that we could have in the form of the relational form, like relational database form. So using POLYBASE, you can read the data managed by the Hadoop, Spark, and Azure Blob Storage, as well as other database management system. Like you can also work on the other DBMS, like for POLYBASE, but it is recommended to be for relational database. databases. But you can work over your Cosmos DB, Oracle, Teradata, MongoDB, etc. Then we have further other technique, or we could say method, that is your ingest data using SQL Server Integration Services. That is your SSIS. So this could be the other way by which you can transport or ingest your data. So like here, this SSIS is a platform for building the enterprise level data integration, or we could say that data transformation solution. So basically it is basically focused for the complex business problems. Whenever you have a large amount of data that you need to transport, or you need to load, then in that case this SSIS is being used in most of the part. And this SSIS is your part of the Microsoft SQL Server. So it can extract and transform the data from wide variety of sources, like we have XML data files, we have flat files, we have relational data sources. So it will help us to load that data, from large amount of data from that source to the particular destination, or one or more destination as well. Next, we have ingest data using Azure Databricks. So this could be the another method that we have for ingesting. So by using the Azure Databricks. So basically, Azure Databricks is an analytics platform which optimized for the Microsoft Azure cloud services. And this Databricks is based on the Spark itself, like Spark technology, and is integrated with Azure to streamline workflows. And it is mostly used or mainly focused by the data scientists and like data engineers. Like most of the time they work over it. And like Databricks can process the data held in many different types of storage. Like we have Azure Blob Storage, we have Azure Data Lake Store, we have Hadoop storage. So it will work over that. And it will also process your streaming data that we have, that we'll discuss further, or we have already discussed it yesterday itself. Next, we have other topic, that is your data storage and processing. So like how your data is being processed. Like till now we have discussed that how the data is being loaded, and like what are the ways by which we can ingest our data or we can load our data. But now from here we are going to see the processing techniques, or we could say the services for processing that we have. So like firstly we'll have a process data using Azure Synapse Analytics. So this could be the first way by which we can process our data. So like basically Azure Synapse Analytics is a generalized analytics service, like most of the general service that we have. So like basically we use it to read the data from many sources and then process this data and generate various analysis and models based on this data, and then further we can save the results from this. So basically we can select between two technology to process this data by using the Azure Synapse Analytics. So we have two technologies here. So one is your Transact SQL and second is your Spark. So Transact SQL is the same dialect of the SQL that is used by the Azure SQL databases, but it has some extensions along with the Azure SQL databases, that is for reading the data from the external sources such as the databases, files, and like other Azure Data Lake storage. So we can use this extension, or like it's a plus feature for the SQL, like plus feature over the SQL that we have in our Transact SQL. Then we have a Spark as our next technology. So this is the same open source technology that we use to power the Azure Databricks, and like we can analytic our code using the notebooks in programming languages that are written in C Sharp or Python or SQL. So we can use that. So this could be the another way or another technology we can work on to process the data using the Azure Synapse Analytics. Basically this Spark will provide us the libraries, like it has several libraries to be work on, or which we can work on several models, and we can analyze this, we can use this for our further models and processing our data in a better way. So like here in this diagram you can see this, that we have external data which is further passed to the Azure Synapse Analytics. Like this diagram has I have already shown you in the previous slides. So like it's the similar one. So you have then control node, then compute node, and then final your SQL databases that you have. Next, we have another way for processing your data. So processing your data using your Azure Databricks. So like as I have already mentioned that Azure Databricks is an analytics platform which is optimized by the Microsoft Azure Cloud Services, and it is basically focused on the streamlined workflows, and it can process that data that is held in the different types of storage like Azure Blob Storage, Azure Data Lake Store, Hadoop storage, flat files, databases, and like other things. So basically the mainly focus of Databricks is that it can also process the streaming data, and it uses extensible features, or we could say extensible architecture which is based on the drivers. So, and it works on a engine that is provided by the Apache Spark. Next, we have the technique that is using the Azure HT Insights. So this could be the other way by which you can process your data using the Azure HT Insight. So Azure HT Insight is a managed analytics service in the cloud that we have, and it is based on the Apache Hadoop, and it is a collection of the open source tools that we have. It also has utilities that enables you to run the processing task over the large amounts of data. So basically it will reduce uses of the simple frameworks to split a task over a large data set. Like basically we want to if we are talking in the terms of the machine learning, then if you have a large data set, then you can divide it into two parts like we have for testing data and for training purpose. So like it will divide it into two parts very easily, like in a quick manner. So we generally use this one. Next, we have other way, that is your processing the data using the Azure Data Factory. So Data Factory, like as I have already described, that Azure Data Factory is your service that can ingest large amounts of the raw or unorganized data from the relational as well as non-relational system. So basically it could be for both, as mentioned here, like relational as well as non-relational, and it can convert this data into the meaningful information after processing it. And it is for like scalable and programmable ingestion engine. So like it is basically focused like it is for basically focused on the complex hybrid models, we could say. So we can use it for like ETL as well as ELT projects also. Like as you can see here, like we have blob storage, then further it is ingested by using the data factory pipeline, then we have Hive the query, then we worked on Cosmos DB, and then further our data is partitioned into two parts, which can be a refined data that could be further used for our visualization purpose. Next, we have processing of data using Azure Data Lake. So, firstly, let me tell you that what a data lake store is. So, data lake store provides a file system that can store your near limitless quantities of data. Like you can store so many files here. In like we have in Windows, we have Linux file system. So we have that, but we can't store that much amount of data in that. But in by using this data lake store, you can store the massive amounts of the raw data and structured data in your files as well. So it is optimized for analytics workloads, and it is compatible for Hadoop distributed file system. Next, we have Data Lake Analytics, that is your on demand analytics job service. So, it is used to process the big data mainly, and it will provide a framework and a set of tools that you can use to analyze the data that is held in Microsoft Azure Data Lake Store and like other repositories. So, you can use it provides a framework so that you can use the data that you have stored there. So basically you can write here the queries, or like you can write your job, or we could say job or files or your queries in the language called USQL, basically, which is mainly focused on the SQL as well as the C sharp language, so hybrid one. Then we have the components of the Azure Synapse Analytics. So till now we have discussed about all the process techniques that we have to process our data, and previously we have discussed about the ingested method that we have for transporting the data. Now coming towards the the Azure Synapse Analytics. So basically, your Azure Synapse Analytics is an integrated analytics service that allows organization to gain insights quickly from all their data at any hyperscale from both data warehouses and big data analytics systems. So like it will provide a way by which we can gain the insights. Like we have a huge amount of data, but it will provide a way so that we can hyperscale that data. We can study that data. We can get insights from our data that we have. So basically, there are several components we have for Azure Synapse Analytics. That is your Synapse Analyst, like Synapse Link, Synapse Studio, Synapse Pipelines, then Synapse SQL, and then Synapse Spark. So we'll study these components further in our slides. So let's start with that. So firstly, we have SQL pools. So what are these SQL pools is whenever you are working on a Synapse SQL, so like you need to workload the run using your like SQL pool. Like SQL pool is sort of a connection, we could say, collection, we could say. So basically it will provide a cluster run of version of your SQL database. Like for example, here we could see, then you can see that here is your external data. So like your external data is being passed through the POLYBASE, then further it will divided, we could say divided or like passed through the Azure Synapse Analytics, where it is goes to the control node. Then control node will further divide this task on the pipelines to the further databases, or we could say compute nodes. So these are called as the pools of the SQL. Like we have different collection. Then further it will divide it over the storage, Azure storage. So next we have Spark pools. So what a Spark pool is? So Spark pools enable you to process your data that is held in many formats. Like we have CSV format, we have JSON format, we have XML, Parquet, okay, we have Evro. So we have different formats. So it will help you to process the data that is held in different formats. And Spark pool provide the basic building block for performing in memory cluster computing. So you can do it the cluster computing with this very easily, and it will it can have the auto scaling enabled, so that like pool scale by adding or removing the nodes. Like you can add or remove the nodes as per your need. So you can work with the Spark pools on your demand, like whatever demand you have. So you need to add or remove the nodes basis on the basis of that. Then next we have Synapse pipeline. So basically, as I have already mentioned, that a pipeline is a logical grouping of the activities that together perform a particular task or any task. So for example, like here you can see that there are different activities. So like it will be work on a pipeline, so that the no process can break in between. So the basically Synapse pipelines will provide a flow to your work, or we could say flow to the data that we have, all the processes. Next we have Synapse Link. So basically Azure Synapse Link for Azure Cosmos DB is a cloud native hybrid transactional and analytical processing capability. We could say that it is a basically for transactional as well as your analytical processing. So like you can run your real time analytics over the operational data that is stored in the Azure Cosmos DB. So like you can use the Synapse Link to link the features of the Cosmos DB and like other stores, so that it will maintain like workload, so that you can run your workload very easily over it whenever you maintain a link between that. Next we have Synapse Studio. So Synapse Studio is a web interface that enables you to create the pools and pipelines interactively. So that you can modify your pipelines, or you can create your pools, or you can modify your pools easily. So it will be create the pools and pipelines in an interactive way. So like with this Synapse Studio, you can develop, you can test, you can debug your Spark notebooks and your Transact SQL jobs, and like all of these capabilities these are accessed via the web native Synapse Studio. Like here you can see that this is from a screenshot from the Azure portal. So like here the everything is done in an interactive manner, so as you can see here. So basically we could say that Synapse Studio is mainly focused for allowing the permission, or we could say allowing the a way to manage, monitor, code and security. Like it will do everything for us in a more secure manner. Then next we have Power BI tools. So that was all about the Synapse Analytics. Now we'll start with the visualization part. So basically, as I have already discussed it yesterday in my previous session, that data visualization is very important for business, like for e-commerce, because we need to visualize that data, because we have a huge amount of data. We have a large amount of data sets available with us, but we can't check every data all together. Like we don't have much time, or we don't have time to check that each and every information that is mentioned over that table. So that to make it in a effective manner, so that a user or anyone who's reading that data can get easily visualized concepts, or you could say insight from that table or from that data. So we convert it into the form of the charts, in the form of a graph, so we could say. So for that we have a tool called Power BI, which is provided by the Azure. So basically our Microsoft Power BI is a suite of tools and services that is mainly focused to provide the interactive visualization for business users to consume. Like we can use the data, and then Power BI tools will consume that data, or we can say use that data to convert it into a visualized form. So like here you can see that in this diagram we have data from like Excel sheet, from your SQL, from your files, from cloud, or from your anything. So you can have your data, then you can pass your data through the Power BI desktop. Then further it could be passed through your Power BI services at cloud. Then it will be displayed over your Power BI phone app or like web browser, and it will create a visualized version of your data. So we have different things that your Power BI will take. So here like I have mentioned that firstly for data modeling, so what it will take, so like all these things will be processed through the Power BI. So Power BI will contain all these things. So basically in your data modeling we have analytical model, we could say analytical model. So it will provide us, it will have your structure, we could say, or it will it will have a measure, it will have a dimension, so that it would combine everything and give you a desired result. Like it will analyze or the whole report. Like here you can see that it has the total revenue for wrenches sold to Samir in January. Suppose Samir is a person, so like it has product, it has time, it has customers. So all these three data is being established in such a form that every dimension is representing an entity. So every dimension is representing an entity, and then after further combining all the information, all the data, further we have analyzed the correct data we want from this dimension and from this cube. Next we have tables and schema. So basically the dimension tables represents the entity that we have. Like we have here a customer table, we have here a product table. So this customer table is your dimension, for example, then product is your dimension, as I have mentioned in this cube. So this customer table, for this is customer is the entity, and all these are the values, we could say. Then we have product as our entity, and these all are the values. So further it will combine these two tables that are the two dimensions, and then further it will generate a fact over it. So fact is our sales. So let it has combined the customer and product dimensions together to generate a fact, that is your sales. Then the sales is further used to generate another dimension, that is your time. And then final, this all the information is being aggregated, or is being combined, or is being used to create the final visualization of the data we have. So this is the way how this Power BI generates, or Power BI analyze the data that we have, and then further it will make the use of it to make the visualized version of the data. So here then we have attribute hierarchies. So basically we have like for example the Power BI uses this category also, like one more feature of the Power BI. So basically here for example I have taken a dimension time. So here the time has key, year, month, day and weekday. So here what happen is after this hierarchy it will have year. So year we have 2022, so it's a common one. Then we further hierarchy we have month. So month is January, so like both are for January, so it shows the further hierarchy. Then we have January, then we have days, then we have revenue. So in this way this attribute hierarchy will work on. So like this is all about the analytical model that is being analyzed by the Power BI to quickly analyze everything, to quickly form and to quickly drill up and drill down the aggregated values that we have, and then further it will create the visualized version of these data. So then we have analytical modeling. So like this is the way, as I have already explained you everything. So this is the screenshot for the Power BI, like how it will take everything. So this is for customer, then sales, then product, then time. So it will take all this, like this is your dimension, this is your dimension. Then you have a fact, like dimension has generated the fact, then fact is further processed to create one more dimension. So like this in this way this Power BI is being used to analyze any model, to define an analytical model from the tables of the data, so that it can be further used to make the visualized versions, or you can say which can be further used to make the charts, graphs or other things. So let's see what are the things that can be formed. So like these are the quite a few examples. So these are the data visualization example. Like we data visualization is especially the it's just a charts, we could say just a charts or graphs that we have. So like we have different version in which we can explain, or which in which we can show our data. So like we have graph chart, we have a column chart, we have pie chart, we have line chart, we have matrix, we have a spot chart, we have everything. So like so many things are there by which you can describe your data, by which you can visualize your data. But it again it depends on your needs, like where whenever you use anything, so like why you want to use that, so it completely depends on that thing as well. Now moving further, we have interactive reports in Power BI as well. So the another feature that we have with Power BI is that the visual elements for related data in a report are automatically linked to one another, and it will provide the interactivity. Like for example, here you have a pie chart. So like whenever you will click in any element of this pie chart, then it will show you the interactive report of that. So it is the one of the other positive feature of the Power BI that we have. Next we have batch processing. So like I have already told you that we need to process our data before moving further, because we sometimes have some used data. Like we for example we have a date. So like date and time. So date and time are written in different forms. Like somebody has written month first, then date, then year, and someone has written like date, month and year. So like all the data is in different formats, but we want a single format for that. So for that we need to have a single format, so that we can further use it for our analytics purpose, so that we can further use it for our trends. So for that batch processing or stream processing is very necessary. Like we processing is necessary. Batch processing and stream processing are the techniques for the processing we have. So processing plays a very important role to filter our data or to sort our data. So firstly, the first technique that we have is our batch processing. So batch processing is basically a technique that will work over the group, over the batch. For example, your user has entered some data in the form recently added data. So that data is being collected together into a group. So that group is known as the batch. Then that processing will work over the whole group. we could say a whole batch at a single time. So this batch processing is just a technique that we could say that is used for processing over the large data, so that it could treat the large data as a single batch, and it will process that data to the further techniques, to the further processes. So basically here, like as you can see that here we have 6 cars. So like these 6 cars are treated as a single batch here. So here this batch processing is mainly focused on the group of data where we have large amount of data, but though it could like it could take several hours to process that data, but it's very beneficial whenever we have large data sets, so we can use this processing to process our data and to filter our data to be passed on through the several further processes. Next we have another processing technique, that is your stream processing. So like in stream processing, your each new piece of data is being processed when it arrives. Like for example, it could not wait for the for making a batch or for making a group. Like whenever a user enter a data, so it comes along and then it will comes along and further it will be processed and then passed further. So like this, in this way the stream processing will work. That's why it take a less time than the batch processing, because here the data is very less and it will process the data as whenever it comes it will process that, so it will not wait for the huge data to make a batch or to make a group. So like here you can see in this example, like the car is coming, so it is calculating that one. So like if car is going, then it will calculating that one. So like that, so like as and when it is coming it will count it. So as and when it will come, the data will come, it will process it. So like that, so it requires less amount of time than the batch processing. But this stream processing is more beneficial in the case where when we have the less amount of data and we have a dynamic data, so we can use the stream processing. And especially if we could say, then we can use the stream processing in the IoT, like that is your internet of things, because there we have some sensor devices. So that that sensor data could be fetched and then it will be processed very easily, like in a flow, in a linear fashion, so that you can further analyze the whole situation, whole model together. Then we have batch and stream processing together. So like we can also combine these batch and stream processing together, but we have some several steps, like we have to follow several steps to do so. So like here in this diagram, as you can see that firstly we have to follow that data events from a stream data source are captured in a real time here. Then that data from other resources is ingested into the data store for the batch processing. Then if real time analytics is not required, then the captured streaming data is returned to the data store for subsequent batch processing. Then we have real time, when real time analytics is required, then a stream processing technology is used to prepare the streaming data for real time analysis or visualization. Then the non streaming data is periodically batch processed to prepare it for analysis, and the results are persisted in an analytical data store. Then we have our sixth step, as the results of the stream processing may also be persisted in the analytical data store to support the historical analysis. And then further, the seventh step is your analytical and visualization tools are used to present and explore the real-time historical data. So finally, the visualization version is done here at the seventh step. Then we have general architecture for the stream processing. So like these are the steps how we can use the stream processing, like general architecture, that how stream processing will takes place. So like firstly you have your raw data, like event generates any data, like for example you have any IoT device, so it will generate some sensors. Then some sensors are written in the form of like simple cases, or like we could say that it is stored in the form of some data or values in the table. Then further it is, the event is being processed, like your data is being processed, and like your data is being filtered out here. And then further at the fourth step, your operation or like output is generated, which could be a file, which could be a table or anything. And then finally your visualization part is created, like you can create your graphs or anything from these databases that you that data that you have generated after the stream process. Now coming towards the stream processing in Azure. So like stream processing in Azure basically needs two technology, or like we use commonly use the two technology to process our streaming data in Azure. So like first is your Azure Stream Analytics, and second is your Spark Structured Streaming. So these are the two techniques that we use to process our streaming, like we could say for the stream processing in Azure. So firstly, we have Azure Stream Analytics. That is your platform as a service solution that you can use to define these streaming jobs that are ingested data from a streaming source, and then applying a perpetual query over it, and then finally it will write the results to an output. And then second technology is your Spark Structured Streaming. That is your open source library that enables you to develop the complex streaming solutions on the Apache Spark based services, and it will include your Synapse Analytics, as well as your Azure Databricks and your Azure HD Insight. So like Spark Structured Streaming is basically focused on the open source libraries, like you need to write some documents over it, but in Azure Stream Analytics you can directly use it using the GUI feature or like that, because it will provide you a platform as a service. Then next we have sources for stream processing and sinks for stream processing. Like source is your data, like from where you are ingesting your data. Then sink is your where you are giving the output of your data after the stream processing. So the following services are like commonly used to ingest the data from the stream processing. So like we have Azure Event Hubs for from where we can ingest the data. Then we have Azure IoT Hub. Then we have Azure Data Lake Store Generation 2. Then we have your Apache Kafka. So like firstly, your Azure Event Hubs is a data ingestion service that you can use to manage the queues of your event data, ensuring that each event is processed in order exactly once. Then we have second service is your Azure IoT Hub. So it is a data ingestion service that is similar to your Azure Event Hub, and but it has a one more features that it will optimize for managing the event data, that is especially for the IoT devices. Third service is your Azure Data Lake Store Generation 2 service. It is a highly scalable storage service that is often used in the batch processing scenario as well. Like you can use it for batch processing as well, but it can also be used as the streaming for streaming data as well. Then we have Apache Kafka, so an open source data ingestion solution that is commonly used together with the Apache Spark. So you need to use it with Apache Spark as well, and you can use Azure HD Insight to create a Kafka cluster. Next, we have sinks for stream processing, like where your output from the stream processing will send to, like what are the services from to which we need to send your stream processing data. So firstly, we have our Azure Event Hubs that is used to queue the process data for further downstream processing. Next, we have your Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2 or Azure Blob Storage, which is used to persist the processed results as a file. Third, we have Azure SQL Database or Azure Synapse Analytics that is used to persist the data, that is your process data, in a database table for querying and analysis. And fourth is your Microsoft Power BI, which could be used for your data visualization and for creating your interactive reports. Next, we have Apache Spark on Microsoft Azure. So basically, what a Spark structured streaming is, because we have different streaming techniques here as we have discussed. So like for going too deep into the part of the Apache Spark, so we have Spark structured streaming. So basically, Spark structured streaming is built on a structure in a Spark called data frame. So basically, it encapsulates a table of data which could be further used. So here like we can use the Spark structured streaming API to read the data from the real time data source, like Kafka Hub. We have file store, we have network port, or like other data frames that we have. Then we can populate it further for the further processes. So like this is the way we can also have this Spark structure streaming, like it could use the Spark libraries and other things, so that it is the another way to process to pass on it for the further process. Then next we have Delta Lake. So I think this could be the last topic that we have. So Delta Lake is an open source storage layer that adds a support for the transactional consistency, schema enforcement, and other common data warehousing features to data lake storage. So basically what a Delta Lake is, like it is just a we could say a open source storage layer, like where you can store the large amount of data, or where you can store the huge amount of data, so that where you can do the batch processing as well as the stream processing. Like whenever you want a unified storage for that, for like stream processing and for batch processing, then we can use the Delta Lake. It is a storage layer of that, so that it could provide a consistency over your data. It will provide a unique unified system for your data, unified storage for your data. So that's all about the things that we have discussed today. So I think we are done with the all the things that are related to the data that comes in your DP exam. So I would say all the best to everyone who are going to give this exam, DP 900. It is mainly focused on data. So like the topics that I have covered, you just need to read these topics in a thorough manner, and you can definitely crack this exam. And I would just remind you that the passing score for this exam is 700. So like by reading these sources in a thorough manner that I have mentioned in my all the 3 day session, so you can definitely crack this exam and you will definitely score a good marks. So these are the resources that I will share to Itasha, and she will share to you in the comment box. So Itasha, over to you. Over to you, Itasha.
Okay, I guess Natasha is she has some network glitch, so I'll be taking from her. So guys, Aman, there is some questions like why it is difficult to work with stream processing.
Why is it difficult to work with stream processing? Okay, so like stream, it's not difficult to work over stream processing. Like if you are using the Azure as a service, so like you can work over the stream processing, but it is just for the like we whenever we have a small amount of data, whenever we have a small amount of data and we want to process our data in a quick manner, then we can use this stream processing. But for that, again, we have to define some services or some requirements up to our need. So that is important. So you can process your you can use the stream processing. It is easily available if you are working over the Azure.
Okay, so any more questions, guys? Let's get his hand to take your questions. So if you have any doubts, any queries regarding the DP900 exam certification, anything, so you can just put it down in the comment section. We are happy to answer those questions now. Uh,
Lakshit, I have shared some resources. Can you please share it to the comment box?
yes, I'm sharing. Okay. So this is the link, guys. You can just go through it and so I'm just adding one more point to Jashri ma'am, what Jashri ma'am said, like Microsoft official documentation for these exams are the best resources to crack any exam regarding Azure or Azure means Microsoft Azure related exam certification exam. So go through these official documentation. It is preferred for you all. And where will we get? Okay, so Gurdeep, when we will get the exam voucher. So the right now, if any no one has any questions, I am here for the big announcement regarding the exam voucher and the swags. Okay, like let me go through it. Let's. Okay, so what you have to do, there are certain steps that you have to follow. Just the first step is you just have to join our Discord channel, Azure Developer Community Discord channel. You have to join. There is a channel, the server you have to join. There is a channel called Quiz where tomorrow there will be quiz regarding DP900. What you have learned in this 3 days bootcamp, the quiz will be from that syllabus only. Okay, and about the certificates, yes, Priyanshu, you will be getting the attendee certificates for sure, but it will might take some time for you because you will be getting through mail, but it will might take some time for you to send all these mails because we are sending through them batches. Okay, so you will be getting the certificates. And if you are talking about Microsoft certification, then we will be getting you the vouchers. And for the vouchers, you just have to follow some steps. We will share those steps tomorrow. Okay, let me share these steps today only. Okay, just wait for a second. First, the main and the important step is join our Discord community channel. This is the most important step that you have to follow. Next step you have to do is, there is a channel in the Azure Developer Community server named AZ Certification, where you have to okay, let me share the link with you all again. Copy message link. Okay, so this is the message link in the Discord community channel. This is basically from AZ certification channel, but these steps you have to follow. What you have to do, you have to go to your LinkedIn profile. I mean your personal LinkedIn profile. You have to update Azure data, Azure in your skills section, and then you have to put your LinkedIn profile in this form. And you have to put your LinkedIn. Let me share the form also. Okay, you have to put your LinkedIn profile after updating LinkedIn profile in your skill section in LinkedIn. Then you have to put your LinkedIn profile in this section. Then you are done with this. You are done with all the steps. If you are getting any difficulties, let me give you some reference about this also. Here is the video tutorial link which you can follow for getting some reference if you are getting any error or any you are stuck in somewhere. So this is the YouTube link that you can follow for tutorial stuff. Okay, so the most important step, if you are in the Discord community channel, then you will get any help anytime, and we are open to questions if you have. Okay, please show this. Now, like Priyanshu, what you want us to show? Like, can you please elaborate what your question means? I'm not getting you. Okay. So this is the Azure Developer Community Discord channel. Join this Discord channel and you will be getting everything. Yeah. And for the swags part, there is a different thing for swags part. Swags will be given to the top 5 winners. There will be a quiz tomorrow. We will at 7 p.m. will be a quiz tomorrow in Discord community server, and you have to join that quiz for claiming your swags. Okay, everybody, not everybody is going to get those swags. Who will perform well in the quiz will be getting the swags only. Okay, and certification voucher coupons are for everyone, and it will take about 1 week to get your coupon through your mail. Okay, after you complete the entire process, it will take a week to get you the coupon, Microsoft certification coupon. So any questions, any query regarding the certification swags, any questions for ma'am, Jayashree ma'am you have, so just let us know right now. If you don't have any questions, we can just end this stream right now. Please show this, Priyansu. Okay, done. Okay, so I guess no one has any doubts. So guys, do join our Discord channel, and that's it from my side. And thank you, Jessie ma'am, for being our valuable speaker. It was great working with you, collaborating with you. I hope everyone enjoyed the session by Jessie ma'am, and she did the amazing job as a speaker. And we will be collaborating with multiple events in future also. And let's see what we can. And if you want to if anyone from audience want to contribute to Azure Developer Community, just join our Discord channel, make a ticket and everything, raise a ticket. You can just tell us where you want to contribute, and we have everything open for you guys. It's an open source community where you can contribute in any ways. Okay, so and thank you, Jessie ma'am, thank you for everything, and thank you audience for joining us. And anything from your side, ma'am? Okay, cool.
Thank you, Lakshit, for having me, for inviting me. And I hope that everyone got lots of insight from the session. So, all the best, guys, and do perform well.
Yeah, all the best guys for your certifications. Everyone must claim the certification because this time it is for free. So do realize this is an opportunity for you. So make it count, guys. That's it from my side. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Jessie ma'am. Now we are going to end this stream. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.